During the prime of the Mesopotamian cradle of civilization, the Assyrian Empire stands centered upon the Tigris River. This period, as part of the Age of Gods, is home to the mermaid goddess of fertility, Derketo of Ascalon, who finds doves sacred as icons of love. While she is worshipped for her divinity, particularly by mortal men, she eventually finds herself enamored by a young Syrian man. The two of them make love, and Derketo even bears the man's child, birthing a demigod infant. While this is normally a spectacle, Derketo instead looks upon her new child and feels a daunting shame. How could she, a divine goddess, stoop to the level of committing adultery with a mere human? Thus, she saw her own daughter, Semiramis, as a shameful reminder of her mistake. Derketo deals her wrath upon the father, killing him to cover her shame. Shortly after birth, the baby Semiramis vaguely watches the shape of her mother, fleeing to the riverside. Derketo lunges into the water, her mermaid body transforming into a fish with an uncanny human face. Semiramis has been abandoned on the waterfront, left to die by her own mother. Luckily, this child is resilient, born not simply with the blood of a human, but also with that of a goddess. With this divinity, Semiramis survives long enough for doves to respond to her cries, the very same creatures held sacred by her mother. These doves care for her, enveloping her among their wings, protecting her from the cold. The doves search the lands for milk with which to feed her. Their protection endures for 10 years, until Semiramis is discovered by a passing shepherd named Simas. With this encounter, Semiramis is taken to be reintroduced to society. In this endeavor, Simas continues to raise Semiramis, teaching her of astronomy as well as how to dance and beautify herself. Her lessons in presenting herself become tools in her arsenal to survive the cruelty of humans. In turn, as an adult, her beauty invokes the image of the goddess Ishtar. Beyond mere beauty, she is also highly educated. The pains of abandonment permanently stain Semiramis' philosophy on life, especially her views on men and women. She adamantly declares that her mother was weak and pathetic for letting herself be toyed with by a man. Semiramis hates all women for being weak around men, despite how valuable they are for being able to bring new life into the world. Of course, this hatred spreads to all men, who she sees as beasts controlled by their primal urges. To stand above them, Semiramis decides to become a strong woman, who will instead make men into her playthings. More specifically, she sees this as a necessity for survival. Among her male victims is Ones, an old general of Assyria, whom she marries in order to gain military influence. In this position, she is cunning and formulates successful battle strategies in the capture of Bactra. Unsurprisingly, this puts her in good favor of the king of Assyria, Ninus, who comes to admire her bravery and beauty. In fact, the king is so smitten that he offers his own daughter to Ones in exchange for Semiramis. Yet, Ones declines the offer, inciting Ninus' wrath. Ninus threatens to put the general's eyes out, lest he accede to his demands. Ones is torn between fearing his king and love that leads him to hang himself. In the wake of this tragedy, Semiramis marries King Ninus and ascends as Queen of Assyria. Of course, Ones was but a stepping stone in Semiramis' ambitions, and Ninus is no different. Only days after their marriage ceremony, Semiramis slips a deadly poison into the king's wine, and, in the first act of poisoning known to legend, she assassinates her own husband. For the coming decades, she gains unhindered control over the kingdom. Under her wise rule, Assyria conquers much of Asia, restores ancient Babylon, and establishes palaces in Persia. Her exploits become famous enough to be inscribed upon the high brick walls and Ishtar Gate protecting Babylon. As a queen regent, Semiramis continues to hold herself superior to her subjects, with grander desires than regular people. She looks down upon frugality, and instead insists that kings must embrace their inherent tyranny. This ambitious tyranny causes trouble when she catches ear of the famously handsome King Ara of Armenia. She lusts not only for him, but also his authority. In an attempt to expand her influence over Ara's kingdom, she yearns to consummate with and marry him, but is refused. The result? Semiramis marches her forces against Armenia until she manages to slay Ara the Beautiful. To circumvent the inevitable warfare to come, Semiramis reveals herself to be a sorceress, claiming to have resurrected Armenia's king. She has one of her lovers dress as Ara to fool the Armenian people and effectively end the fighting. Semiramis' time on the throne is fruitful, but apparently short-lived. At the time of her death, she wishes to continue her reign, to continue conquering and amassing power. Her life goes down in history, compiling with various myths and legends along the way, including a false rumor that she had commissioned the building of the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. Both fact and fiction gather and are recorded into the Throne of Heroes. In the modern era, Shiro Kotomine, the reborn form of servant Amakusa Shiro Tokisada, seeks the Greater Grail to invoke Heaven's Feel and bring his vision of salvation to humanity. In preparation for the Great Holy Grail War in Trifas, Shiro summons Semiramis as the Assassin of Red. He is in awe of her presence, listening as she declares, "Not for naught am I known as the world's oldest poisoner. Are you truly certain that you can wield Queen Semiramis?" Unintimidated, Shiro instead responds, "O Queen of Assyria, in this great Holy Grail War, I aim not for victory or defeat, but for another goal. Will you aid me?" This is both confusing and conflicting, as Semiramis seeks the Grail to resume her reign as queen. Thankfully, rather than make him into her plaything, she decides to humor his ambitions, eventually adopting his wish as her own. The first stage of their plan is to steal the command seals of their allied Masters of Red. To do this, Semiramis sneaks a sedative poison into their tea, which lulls them into a state of complacency. This allows Shiro Kotomine to claim all of the servants of Red, -1 as his own. The only master and servant of Red not to fall for their trap are Kairi Shishigo and his saber. When Semiramis suggests killing them quickly, Shiro instead lets them live, an ultimately detrimental decision. In battle, because Semiramis is both an excellent poisoner and proclaimed sorceress, she possesses a rare skill, Double Summon, that grants her abilities not only from her assassin class, but from the caster class as well. She can conceal her presence, as well as conjure devastating magecraft. Her beloved doves serve as her familiars. The poisons she constructs can have varying effects, ranging from possession to swift or brutal death. Her double summon also shares with her the skill territory creation, which she employs in creating her noble phantasm, the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, the Aerial Gardens of Vanity, a colossal floating fortress and aerial weapon. While she never actually created or even witnessed the Hanging Gardens, she instinctively senses that over time the gardens have become part of her legend, which allows her to construct the gardens via the image in her mind, so long as she has the raw materials. For this sake, Shiro Kotomine procures large quantities of stone and wood from her homeland. With this, Semiramis conducts a long ritual to bring the gardens to life. Its illusion becomes reality, a fortress far more elaborate than the original. While inside the gardens, she is able to conjure magecraft at a strength rivaling true magic. Specifically within the throne room, her poison is at its strongest form of Sikera Usham, arrogant king's alcohol, which can flood the entire space with an intoxicating pollution, and she can summon gigantic phantasmal beasts, venomous serpents, known as the Bashmu. Together, Shiro and Semiramis intend to use the gardens to extract the Greater Grail from their enemy, the Black Faction. While their partnership is solid enough, Semiramis, out of fascination, still tests the mettle of her master, attempting to seduce him, only to have her advances refused. She remarks how she is not fit to be a servant, as she is instead a queen seeking rule, but settles in her role for Shiro's sake. In the end, they form an odd sort of intimacy. A woman notorious for manipulating men would surely feel tempted to betray Shiro, but his complete sincerity and passion surprises her, as he is not a victim to his primal urges. Thus, she passes up the chance to betray her master, and instead watches him, yearning to witness the fruits of his dream. They endure the Great Grail War and procure the Greater Grail, facing final opposition from the Black Faction and those opposed to Shiro's method of salvation. Among them is Kairi Shishigo and Mordred, who intercept the gardens from an airplane. To settle things and keep them from Shiro as he activates the Grail, Semiramis confronts Mordred in the throne room. There, she uses her poison in its strongest potency, Hydra Venom, as well as magic and phantasmal beasts to her advantage. Her Sikera Ushum brings Mordred to the brink of death, but her upper hand is foiled when Kairi injects Mordred with an antidote. Thus, Mordred gains enough strength to mortally wound Semiramis with a critical strike from her blade. Semiramis, bleeding profusely, abandons the match and goes to Shiro's aid. In a weakened state, she can only manage to restrain Astolfo, while Shiro battles against Sieg in their final bout. Ultimately, she is forced to watch as Shiro is defeated by Sieg's blasted tree. The two of them in critical condition, Semiramis and her master retreat for a final moment amidst the gardens, which are collapsing around them. Their tension is at last relieved when Semiramis puts Shiro to a peaceful death via a warm yet poisonous kiss. Their collective ambitions are crushed by the very building they sought strength from. Their only solace is having been able to meet each other. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, then go check out some of my other lore videos. It's my goal to make one of these for virtually every servant in the Nasuverse, and I would appreciate your support through that journey. The best way would be to become a patron of the channel. We offer different reward tiers, ranging from early access to the chance to suggest your very own video. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to OtakuDaiKun for more anime lists, reviews, discussions, lore videos, let's plays, and the Holy Waifu Wars. Until next time, celebrate your fandom.